Shri Padmatmane Namaham. Devotees, Jai Sita Ram. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to our virtual Sunday morning satsang this beautiful September 27th, 2020. At this time, devotees, I ask that we all please clasp our hands, close our eyes. We focus our minds on the feet of Bhagwan as we commence with our prayers for this morning. Om Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnartha Purnamrachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Ishavasam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitam ma grudha khasya swidhanam. Om sahana vavatu sahano bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahe tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Hari Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om. Devotees, at this time, and we all join together as we offer and chant prayers, and we sing together the Gayatri Mantra. Om Om Agakshe Varane Devi Akshare Brahmavadini Gayatri Jagat Mata Vishwayoni Namastude. Om Bhuvaswam Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Bhuvaswam Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Bhuvaswam Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Hari Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om Prem se bolo Gayatri Mata ki Jai. As we continue on with our prayers for today, devotees, I ask that we all join together as we offer prayers and obediences to that destroyer of all obstacles in our life. As we join together and pray to Lord Ganesh. Om Shri Ganganapate Namaha. Om Gajananam Bhutaganaadi Sevitam Kapitajam Balacharamakshana Umatsutam Shoka Vinashikarakam Namami Viganeshwara Padapankajam. Om Vakratanda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirviganam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Raksha Raksha Ganadhaksha Rakshatre Lokya Rakshakar Bhaktanam Bhayam Karta Trakam Bhavam Bhavanavad. Om Shriman Mahaganadipate Namah. Prem se bolo Ganesh Bhagwan ki Jai. As we continue with our prayers for today, devotees, we offer prayers and obediences to that universal mother and that destroyer of all evils in our life. We offer prayers to Adi Shakti Durga Mata. Om Mahadurgaye Namaha. Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhandra Kali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatre Swaha Swadha Namostute. Jai Tvam Devi Chamunde Jai Bodharte Nihardini Jai Sarvagate Devi Kalaratre Namostute. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Vishnu Maye Vishamnika Namastasye 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 Namo Namah. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Bhute Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shraddha Rupena Samstita. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shanti Rupena Samstita. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Tushti Rupena Samstita. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Daya Rupena Samstita. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namah. Devotees, as we pray to Mother Durga, we say, O Durga Mata, Thou art the supporter of all, and we, your children, worship you in your many forms. O Ma, we see you as Buddhi, Lakshmi, Shakti, Shraddha, Shanti, Tushti, and Dayarupe. And as we pray to you, O Ma, Namastasye, 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 Namo Namah, as we pray to you, O Ma, we bow to thee again and again. Devotees, we offer prayers to Mother Durga in the form of the Universal Mother, Matri Rupe. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matri Rupena Samstita. Namastasye, 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 Namo Namah. Dehi Saubhagyam Arogyam Dehi Me Paramam Sukham Rupam Nehi Jayam Nehi Yasho Nehi Yasho Jani. Om Prem Shiva Shakti Durga Mata Ki Jai. As we continue on with our prayers, devotees, we now offer obediences to that sustainer of all things righteous in this universe, all things dharmic. We offer prayers to Lord Vishnu. Om Shri Vishnu Namaha. Om Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Surisham Vishwadharam Gaganam Sadrisham Meghavararam Shumam. Om Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Ubhidheradhanagamyam Vanne Vishnu Bhavabhayaharam Sarvaloke Kanatam. Om Sashankha Chakram Sakiritha Kundhalam Sapita Vastram Sarasirunesham Sahara Vakshastala Shobhikostuma Shriyam. Namami Vishnu Shirasa Chaturabhujam. Namami Vishnu Shirasa Chaturabhujam. Om Prem Shiva Vishnu Bhagwane Ki Jai. And finally, devotees, we offer prayers to that Universal Father, that Universal Guru. We offer prayers to that destroyer of all evils in our life and in this universe. We offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Saram Bhujagendraharam Sarva Santam Hirdayardune Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami. Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami. Om Namaha Shivaya. Take some time, devotees, to sit down in a comfortable position. Straighten your spine, straighten your neck. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. And as you exhale, elongate your spine even further. Take all of your focus, put it in between your brows. Focus on Lord Shiva himself as we continue to chant. Om Namah Devotees, we offer this next prayer for all those suffering from various illnesses, diseases, injuries, and ailments. We ask that they may have a fast, speedy, and full recovery. We also offer a prayer for those transitioning from this world to the next. May their passage be a smooth and tranquil. Prem se bolo Shiva Shankara Bhagwan ki jai. Devotees, before we continue on with our sermon for today, we will have one bhajan.
ॐ नमो महादेव शम्भो नमो सदाशिव जय परमेश्वर जय भुवनेश्वर जय शिव शंकर नमो महादेव शम्भो नमो सदाशिव जय परमेश्वर जय भुवनेश्वर जय शिव शंकर भवानी शंकर उमा महेश्वर गिरिजा शंकर भवानी शंकर उमा महेश्वर गिरिजा शंकर जय प्रणयंकर जय पीतांबर जय शिव शंकर नमो महादेव शम्भो नमो सदाशिव जय परमेश्वर जय भुवनेश्वर जय शिव शंकर हर हर महादेव गौरी मनोहर हर शिव शंकर हर हर महादेव गौरी मनोहर हर शिव शंकर दुख हरने कर सुख भर दे कर जय शिव शंकर नमो महादेव शम्भो नमो सदाशिव जय परमेश्वर जय भुवनेश्वर जय शिव शंकर शंकर नटराज सुंदर हर हर शंकर शिव शंकर नटराज सुंदर हर हर शंकर जय डमरुवर जय कैलेश्वर जय शिव शंकर नमो महादेव शंभो नमो सदा शिव जय परमेश्वर जय भुवनेश्वर जय शिव शंकर नमो महादेव शंभो नमो सदा शिव जय परमेश्वर जय भुवनेश्वर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर जय शिव शंकर
Devotees, for all of us who have a guru, we offer a prayer at this time to O Guru. If you do not have a guru, then devotees, I ask that you take Lord Shiva in your mind and worship him as the universal guru, as we join together in prayer. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Padam Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Prem se Gurudeo ki jai. Devotees were extremely close to the very end of chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, in which Arjuna is being told by Bhagwan Shri Krishna what a yogi is like, what it means to practice yoga, what it means to meditate, but what it also means to actually be a yogi. He says to be a yogi, you meditate, you focus your mind solely on one object, you control all of your senses. To be a yogi, to be a good person, to be somebody who's worthy of salvation, you see all people as equal in this world. You share in their pleasures, you share in their plights, you share in their pains. He says that a yogi is somebody who controls themselves, who does charitable work, and who treats all equally. Doesn't matter if it's man, woman, dog, cow, ant. All lives are treated the same. But at this point, and where we left off last week, devotees, on verse 37 of chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, is Arjuna having a question for Bhagwan Shri Krishna. In verse 37, 38, and 39, Arjuna states and asks the Bhagwan Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
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 Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Arjuna Uvacha Ayati Shraddhayo Petho Yogach Chalit Manasa Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Tim Krishna Gachchadim Gachchino Maya Vimbrasthas Chinnam Brahmnivanasyati Apratisto Mahabaho Vimodho Brahmana Pati Pitan me Sayam Krishna Shetum Arhasya Se Sada Vadanya Samsayasya Shittanaya upadayate. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Arjuna asked Bhagwan Krishna. He says, "O Krishna, what is the destination of one who begins the process of yoga with faith, but later, due to the uncontrolled mind, falls back into worldliness and fails to attain perfection in yoga?" O Mahabaho Krishna, if one falls from both the process of karmand yoga and becomes deviated from the path of attaining Brahma, does he not perish like a riven cloud with no shelter anywhere? O Krishna, this is my doubt, and I implore you to remove it completely. Other than you, no one else can possibly dispel this doubt. So there's two things going on here in these three verses, devotees. The first is that Arjuna is wondering, what happens when you fall off the path of yoga? What happens when you stop doing everything that you do to practice yoga? Stop seeing everybody as equal, stop meditating, stop controlling your senses. The second thing he's asking here is that you are the only one who can clear this doubt from my mind. No one else can possibly dispel this doubt. So I want you to understand the first thing that's happening here is that Arjuna has a concern. That if he starts to practice and then he stops practicing, that it loses all significance, that it wasn't worth it because I'm going to lose all benefits. But the second thing here is that because he has a concern, he's talking to someone who feels like I can address that concern. I'm going to hone in on the second part first, then I'll go back to the first part. But when it comes to parts of our life, devotees, where we have a concern, where we have something in our minds that troubles us, it's always important to go talk to the right people about it. Of course, Arjuna is very, very, very significant in the sense that he has Bhagwan standing by his side to answer all of his questions. But we don't always have that luxury, do we? If I have a concern, I can't walk downstairs and have Bhagwan Krishna or Bhagwan Vishnu or Bhagwan Shiva pop up and speak to them. But there's always people in my life that I can talk to. So that's the one thing I want you to understand. He says, this is my doubt. I implore you to remove it completely because other than you, no one else can possibly dispel this doubt. You don't have to talk to everybody about the problems you have, but at least talk to one person because that one person could have the answer. But going back to the beginning of this, he says, if I were to practice all this and stop practicing it, wouldn't it just go away? Wouldn't it just disappear like a riven cloud with no shelter anywhere? When I first read that, the only thing that I could think of in my mind was for those of us, and I use this analogy quite often, for those of us who decide that we're going to either go on a diet or start exercising or do both. When we start dieting or exercising, we do good, we're strong, we're very good for a period of time. And then one day we decide, you know what? I don't need to go to the gym today. You know what? I don't need to wake up early. And you know what? Having that one slice of cake will be okay. And then all of a sudden, slowly, we revert back to our old ways. Happens at the beginning of every year. Everybody makes New Year's resolution to lose weight, to go to the gym more often. So you see the gyms packed, and then if you look at the peak of volume, it starts up at top and it goes down, 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 down. Because you stop exercising and because you stop dieting, did you lose the benefits of that? Over time, yes, you probably will. But on that note, what happened? What happened when you started dieting and exercising? You understood the process of what it means to diet and exercise. So if you do something for the first time, it's very, very difficult. But if you do it a second time, it becomes easier. If you do it a third time, it's easier. If you do it a fourth time, it's even easier than that. So, just because we stop something, does it mean it just stops? It ends? Just because we stop practicing yoga, does that mean it's all gone? Bhagwan Shri Krishna smiles at Arjuna. He looks at him, and in verses 40, 41, and 42, Bhagwan Shri Krishna states to Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Bhagavan Uvacha, Bharatana Vehana Mantra, Vinasastasya Vidayade, Nahi Kalyana Kripaschid, Durgatim Tata Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Bhagwan Krishna says, O Arjuna, such an unsuccessful yogi, one who falls off this path of yoga, is not lost either in this world nor the next. Because, my dear friend, a person who is engaged in auspicious acts never attains an unfavorable disposition. One who deviates from the path of yoga after practicing for only a short time attains the planets of the pious, and after enjoying there for many years takes birth in a righteous and wealthy family. The yogi who deviated after practicing for a long time takes his births in the home of yogis who are great in wisdom. Such a birth is undoubtedly very rare in this world. So, what is Bhagwan Krishna saying to Arjuna here? He's not saying that if you stop practicing, you lose it all. Because there's this very important concept, something he didn't actually state in verbal words that we need to understand that exists in something called Sanatana Dharma. And that one word, that one thing is called karma. Think of karma, and this is how my Guruji, my godfather, will say it all the time. This is how we all learned it at Mandir too. Think of your karma like a bank account. Good karma is good money. It makes your bank account go up. Bad karma, akarma, is money that's taken away. It makes your bank account go down. Don't put in so much akarma, so much bad karma, that you start going into debt in your life. Because that affects your cycles of birth, rebirth, and reincarnation. What he's saying here is that by practicing yoga, you are essentially putting all of good karma into your bank account. If you want to think about it in financial terms, you are increasing your account at a positive interest of, 50%. That's a great interest rate, I think, for increasing. 150%, we'll say that. He's saying, because you fall off the path in this life, doesn't mean that you're off the path forever, for eternity, that your soul will wither away. It just means that what you've done is you've put money into your bank account for a later point in time. You've put something in your account that you can use at a different point. And he's saying that point in time may not be this life, it could be the next life. So when you're reincarnated, one who deviates from the path, only practicing for a short time, attains the planets of the pious, and after enjoying them for many years, takes birth in a righteous and wealthy family. The yogi who deviated after practicing for a long time takes his birth in a home of people with great wisdom, and such a birth is undoubtedly very rare in this world. So he's saying that if you practice this time, what I'm going to do for you in your next life is put you in a home where you can focus on that. From the time that you're born to the time that you die. I'm going to put you in an environment that helps you focus on that. Now, I don't want you to misconstrue what he says here, where I'm going to put you into the home of a wealthy family. I don't want you to misconstrue that, because a wealthy family is not necessarily a good family. It is not a righteous family. There's two ends to this line, devotees. There's the wealthy who help the poor, see others as equals, and provide as much as they can to sustain humanity. But then there's the other end of the wealthy who just want the bottom line. They want the dollars. They want the money. And any contributions they make to donations or charities, they do that so they can keep their business afloat and don't have to pay taxes. That's not righteous. So it's saying, yes, a wealthy family, but wealth is not necessarily what we mean in terms of our physical, monetary bank account. It means wealth as in spiritual wealth too. We're born into a good home with good people. This community is filled with good homes and good people. I can see how in our reincarnated state, the members of our mandir, because we're one big family, can you not say that now you've been born into a wealthy family? A family that is pure of heart and pure of mind, pure of soul. A family that likes to do things the right way. A family that likes to watch our kids grow up and be successful. So keep in mind, when you're reborn, we're not just talking about that home that you get put in, that family that surrounds you. It talks about everything around you as well. So it's just like I said, if you fall off the wagon, that doesn't mean that you've fallen off the wagon forever. You can always get back on. It's important for us to note, devotees, that when somebody is in a state of duress, when they have distress in their life, when they have problems, it's important to note that we can't give up on those people. People with emotional problems, physical problems, people with problems with substances, because there's always hope for all of us. That's the takeaway I'm looking at from the end of this chapter. Because in that sense, just because we lose our path in life does not mean we can't regain it. God is forgiving to us. If we lose our path in this life, he'll put us on our path in the next life. And if we are to live our life in the image of Bhagwan and focusing on Bhagwan, then shouldn't we also act like Bhagwan when it comes to treating other people? He's not done yet, though, devotees. Bhagwan Shri Krishna goes on to state in verses 43, 44, and 45 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He tells Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Tatra Tam Buddhi Samyogam, Labhate Parvanehikam, Yatatecha Tatam Moya, Samsiddhau Purunandhanam, Purvabhyasena Teneva, Preyate Yavasomisa, Chichnasu Apiyogasya, Samham Brahmadi Bharatate, Prayatnadnyatamadhastu, Mudhi Samsudhakin Nisa, Anika Janma Samsiddhas, Tatoyatim Param Gatim, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagwan Shri Krishna says, O Purunandana, another name for Arjuna, that unsuccessful yogi regains the divine consciousness of his previous birth, and that is related to Paramatma. And he again endeavors to attain perfection in yoga. By virtue of his previous practice, he is automatically attracted to the path of moksha. And after inquiring a little about yoga, he transcends the path of sakama karma described in the Vedas. The yogi who practices sincerely is freed from all sins after many births and ultimately becomes perfect. Thus he attains the supreme destination. At the very beginning of the sermon, devotees, I talked about what happens if you decide to go on a diet. What happens if you decide to start exercising more in the hopes of losing weight? And you stop doing all that. Does that mean you can't ever go back and start doing it again? Absolutely not. What has happened in that time frame that you started to diet, that you started to exercise, was that you also began to learn. You took the knowledge of what happened the first time and you applied it the second time. I look at it from the example of using this app called MyFitnessPal. I know some of the folks in my generation know what that app is. But essentially that app allows you to track the food that you're eating, and it helps you count your calories. Because there's a scientific study out there that says if you eat underneath your caloric intake, you will lose weight. Now, the question that I had posed at one point was, if you're eating under your caloric intake, is that healthy for you? Because when I started doing it, I was doing that. I was eating under my caloric intake every day. And I started to lose weight. But was that healthy for me? Is it healthy for you when you eat under your caloric intake? Is it necessarily healthy? I have one person saying yes. I have one person saying I don't know. And maybe. The answer is no. The answer is no. Yes, you will lose weight if you eat underneath your caloric intake. But what does a proper diet compose and consist of? Your sodium, your potassium, your sugar, your cholesterol, your saturated fats, your trans fats, your added sugars. So just because you're eating under your caloric intake does not mean you are eating healthily. If you are a type 1 or a type 2 diabetic and you eat nothing but sugar, but you still eat underneath your caloric intake, you will not live a long, healthy, and prosperous life. I learned that the second time around when I was going to start dieting, and not the first time around. So when we practice yoga, when we practice meditation, and we fall off this bus of practicing yoga and treating others as equals, that doesn't mean we've lost everything that we've learned and lost everything that we've done. It just means we have experience for next time. If I decide not to meditate today, That's on me. 10 years from now, that's still on me. But when I sit down and start meditating again, I'm going to remember what that feels like. I'm going to remember how good that makes my soul feel. And I'm going to hope at some point that it sticks. When somebody has a mental problem, something like anxiety or depression, they're going to have good days, they're going to have bad days. And sometimes when they have that fight in their own minds, devotees, it tears them asunder. It makes it so difficult for them to see the beauty that's in this world. But does that mean that they don't ever get to see the beauty in the world? No, because they have the experience of it. And we can help people find that. It's a hard journey. It is. When you stop doing something for so long, and when you stop feeling something for so long, it's very hard to get that feeling back again. But that does not mean it's impossible. So I want you to understand, and I'm not saying go out and do bad in the world, but if you have done something bad in the world, that does not define who you are for the rest of your life. There's always a chance for you to practice that good again. Now, I don't want to see people come to temple. I don't want to see people tell other people I'm a good person. I come to Mandir, and that's why I'm a good yogi. But then you're the same person who goes out and cuts people off, doesn't hold the door open, swears at people of different races and religions, casts judgment upon everybody else except for yourself, and then say that you're going to call yourself a yogi. Don't be a hypocrite when it comes to any of this stuff. We've got to remember that if we're going to practice it, we practice it with a full heart. Don't false practice. So what is meditation again? Is meditation going into a field of grass with a bunch of goats, incense, hot stones in the middle of the day with the sun beating down on your head? I'm not going to say no. The answer is maybe. The answer is maybe because maybe that's what helps you clear your mind. Meditation is something that you practice that makes sure that you control your senses, that you are not focusing on the external world, and that you are focusing on the internal self. Keeping your mind centered. For me, devotees, yoga is something different. I was up here yesterday trying to get all the equipment set up for service today. And I was getting the camera ready and the microphones ready. And then all of a sudden I started playing my harmonium. And then for the next, I think, about 10 minutes, I didn't even realize 10 minutes went by. I was meditating. Why was I meditating? I don't actually have this harmonium at home. I leave it here with my parents. And the moment I touched it, I decided, you know what, I'm going to play something that I learned back when I was in music school. So I decided just to Om Shri Ananta Hari Narayana was the chant. So I sat here and I was trying to figure out the microphones. I was looking at the levels. I was like, Om Shri Ananta Hari Narayana. Om Ananta Hari Narayana. Ananta For me, there's something very magical about that specific raga and the way the minor notes hit the major notes and how everything set together. And the moment I started playing that tune, devotees, my mind became at ease. I forgot about all of this equipment. And for the next 10 minutes, I closed my eyes and I meditated. I blocked out the external world and I just focused not only on what was going on here, but what was going on inside. And I felt solace at that time. For 10 minutes, I felt peace. If I try to go and sit in a field with a bunch of goats with the sun beating over my head and a bunch of people running around with fire and hot stones saying, this is good for your pores, that's not going to help me. So we practice right. Bhagwan Shri Krishna ends with verse 46 and 47 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He says to Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Asvibhyo Niko Yogi Jnan Yoapmato Nika Parame Naschadiko Yogi Tasmad Yogi Sharanam Mama.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna 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 Sharanam Mama.
The yogi who is considered superior to the ascetic, greater than the empirist, and greater than the fruitive worker. He is considered superior to all these people. So therefore, Arjuna, be a yogi. He who constantly performs my bhajans with full faith, always thinking exclusively of me within himself, is, in my opinion, the topmost of yogis. He ends on these two verses, devotees, but I don't want you to think that for the rest of our lives, we have to focus just on focusing on Bhagwan. I know that seems counterintuitive for a pundit to say. It really does. It really does. But there are different stages in life that we go through and different things that we have to practice and perform. There's going to be times where we have to focus on our home, our kids, our work, and the things that we do. So when he says be a yogi, devotees, yes, we worship Bhagwan, but we also act in our lives just like Bhagwan would. When you are at Mandir, when you sit down to pray, your job is to focus on Bhagwan. The things that we perform in life, the things that we do in life, as is mentioned in this chapter, that's on us. That's based off our karma, our actions, our yajna, our sacrifices. So when it comes to you kids who are in school right now, I want you to understand that when we say yoga, performing exclusively one act, your point in time is to focus on your studies. When you come to Mandir, yes, you focus on Bhagwan, but you focus on your studies. You don't talk back to your teachers. You don't call somebody stupid. You don't get the right to judge anybody else who is learning just like you are. Even if you know more than they do, what can you do to that person? You can help. If you know less, you can ask. That applies for everybody who's learning. And guess what? We learn up until the day that we die. We learn something new all the time. But when you're ready, devotees, when you're ready to focus on it, always think of Bhagwan within yourself. Meditate, focus, clear your mind, control your senses. Become a person who sees the world in equanimity, who sees all living things as equal, who sees balance between one another, and continue to live a very dharmic life. Prem se Bolo Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Devotees, at this time we will have one more bhajan before we continue on with our closing prayers.
प्रभु हम पे कृपा करना, प्रभु हम पे दया करना, प्रभु हम पे कृपा करना, प्रभु हम पे दया करुणा। वैकुंठ तो यही है, हृदय मेरा माँ करुणा। प्रभु हम पे कृपा करुणा, प्रभु हम पे दया करना, प्रभु हम पे कृपा करना, प्रभु हम पे दया करना। गूंजेंगे पर स्वर बन के उठा करना। प्रभु हम पे कृपा करना, प्रभु हम पे दया करना। नाचेंगे मोर बनकर हे श्याम तेरे द्वारे, घन श्याम छाए रहना बन कर के मेघ तारे, बन कर के मेघ तारे। अमृत की धार बनकर प्यासू पे दया करना। प्रभु हम पे कृपा करना, प्रभु हम पे दया करना। तेरे वियोग में हम दिन रात है उदासी, अपने शरण में ले लो हे नाथ ब्रज के बासी, हे नाथ ब्रज के बासी। तुम सो हम शब्द बनकर प्राणों में रमा करना। प्रभु हम पे कृपा करना, प्रभु हम पे दया करना। वैकुंठ तो यही है, हृदय में रमा करुणा। प्रभु हम पे कृपा करना, प्रभु हम पे दया करना। प्रभु हम पे कृपा करना, प्रभु हम पे दया करना।
Devotees, may we all at this time go ahead, sit in a very relaxed position. Try to straighten your spine as much as you can. Keep your head up and straight. Focus your eyes in between your brow. Clasp your hands. Join together with me as we chant these closing prayers. Om Sarveshvam Swasti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shanti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Upabhag Bhavet. Om Mantrahinam Kriyahinam Bhaktihinam Janardanam Yatya Pujitam Maya Deva Paripurnam Dharastu Me. Papaham Papu Karmaham Papu Atma Papu Sambhavam Trahimam Uttari Bhaksham सर्वपापो हरो हरि ॐ त्वमेव माताश्च पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युमामृतं यमय हरि ओं शान्ति 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 हरि ओं ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुर्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः अंतरिक्षा ओम शांतिर पृथ्वी शांतिरापा शांतिर औषधय शांतिर वनस्पति शांतिर विश्वदेव शांतिर ब्रह्मा शांतिर सर्वे ओम शांतिर शांतिरेव शांति सामा शांतिरेति हरि ओम शांति 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 हरि ओम तत्सत प्रेम से बोलो गणेश भगवान की जय प्रेम से बोलो आदि शक्ति दुर्गा माता की जय प्रेम से बोलो विष्णु भगवान की जय प्रेम से बोलो शिव शंकर भगवान की जय प्रेम से बोलो शिव शक्ति मंदिर की जय प्रेम से बोलो सनातन धर्म की जय Devotees, with this, we've come to the end of our virtual Sunday morning service for today. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here with us on this beautiful September 27th. Just a few announcements on my end. As I had mentioned last week, and I will mention again this week, October is very quickly approaching. It'll be here on Thursday. But in this month of October, we will be celebrating our Sharad Navratri period. And that is from Saturday, October 17th, through Sunday, October 25th. Again, Saturday, October 17th through Sunday, October 25th. And during those times, devotees, we will be doing 2 Navratri services. And again, more details to come on those services, how they'll be conducted. And if they are virtual, then what I will do as due diligence for everyone, devotees, is prepare a list ahead of time and have our secretary email that list out for those of you who wish to participate and perform puja at home alongside of us with the required murtis that you may need, or the dar that you may need, or at least the minimum that you will need to perform the puja with us here while we perform it virtually, if we're doing it virtually. Only other announcement I have beside that is just to go ahead and be prepared, because on Sunday, November 1st is daylight savings time. So our clocks fall back an hour. We get to sleep an extra hour. But that still means we have to be responsible and be on time for virtual Sunday morning service if we're still in virtual, or if we're in person. So that is on Sunday, November 1st. Beyond that, devotees, I have no other announcements. I hope you have a wonderful, safe, happy, and healthy week. And on my end, Jai Sita Ram. I will now pass the microphone over to our president for a few more closing announcements.
Sita Ram, devotees, and I hope that everyone is still staying safe out there, and you and your family are all in great health on this, our 29th week of virtual puja. Today I have 2 public service announcements that I would like to share with all that are listening. First and foremost, I think many of you have received a number of pieces of mail or public service announcement about the 2020 census. If you have not completed your census, I strongly urge you to do so. Family, get together and please complete your census. And you may ask the question, why is it important to me? Well, I will tell you, for us that live in the state of Georgia or New York or Florida, California, New Jersey, upon the completion of the census, it depends and it determines the number of residents in your state. And that also is the determined factor of what resources the federal government will provide to your state in terms of social services and other resources. So it's very important for each state to have an accurate account of the number of residents in their state to get the appropriate level of federal aid from the government. So please, I urge you to complete the census. Some months ago, there were hopes in 2 Caribbean islands, the nation of Guyana and Trinidad, And the people, the residents of those two countries, decided to take action, and they went to the polls and they voted, their government. And in Trinidad, the incumbent government was re-elected for another term, and it was a peaceful transition. In Guyana, the opposition party won the election, and after some period of time, there was a transition of the opposition party, who the people voted into office. We are here in the United States 38 days away for our general election. If you have not registered to vote, I urge you to do so and go to the poll on November the 3rd and make your voice heard. You have an opportunity. You have a say in the general election. Regardless of your party affiliation, make your voice heard. Go to the poll on November the 3rd and elect your local representatives and federal representative running for the highest office in the land, and that is the President of the United States of America. I also want to thank a couple of folks over this past week who have shouted to us. And Auntie Gloria, thank you very much for that kind note that you sent to us. Uncle Jagnaran, thank you very much, and I hope you're doing well. This past week also we have a number of individuals that celebrated their birthday. First and foremost, I want to wish by Rai Sukram a happy birthday, followed by Vivian and Auntie Dan Day. And today is Dr. Danny Sakai birthday. So for all of you, we extend our sincere birthday wishes, and may you continue to enjoy happiness, prosperity, and longevity for many, many, many more years to come. With that said, I want to give a special shout out to a very dear friend of mine, Top Sergeant, Old Sergeant Raj, who has spent 2 decades serving the military to ensure that we have the freedom to elect our government. So again, please register to vote, fill your census out, and Sergeant Rajan, thank you very much for your service, and also by Chris Kumar, thank you very much for your service. With that, devotees, Jai Sita Ram.